The other thing that I wanted to raise for us to talk about, everyone's going to make now boards and commission appointments. I wanted to put a little bit brighter light on the Planning Commission. I noticed that staff has laid out for us all the Planning Commission members. My thought is that given the community interest in some parts of the community about the collective appointments in addition to the individual appointments, we might, as a group, take a look at that, and maybe before we each made individual appointments, we would let everybody else on the council know who we were thinking about making as our individual appointments, so that we could get a feel for what the collective group was looking like in case people wanted to change their individual appointments or whatever. So I just thought I'd throw this subject out for us to talk about before people started making appointments. On the list that the staff handed out, there are 6 people on this list, current members, that were named in the lawsuit that was filed. And just so that you can see who they are, the first one, Greg Anderson, was one of the named individuals. Planning Commission, Fayez Kazi was named. Karen McGraw was named. James Schisler was named. Patricia Seeger was named. And James Shea was named. Those 6 people. One of those people was appointed by one of the council members who's no longer on the council. I think that Councilmember Troxclair's appointment was one of the people that was named. And I don't know whether he would be renamed by anybody, but if he wasn't, that would still leave 5. I don't present that as a bar we have to hit, because there was some discussion and obviously a difference of opinion on whether one or more of those 6 people were in fact anything other than lay people under the charter. So by pointing these out, I'm not expressing an opinion that they fall in one group or the other group, just trying to identify that information. But my thought was that we could talk about collectively how we wanted to make these appointments and whether it made sense for us to say to everybody, hey, everybody, why don't you take a look and see who you want to appoint, post their names to the message board with their resume or something, and see if we could do that sometime a week or so prior to our last meeting in February. And then maybe at the work session, the last meeting in February, we could talk about collectively who it looked like the Planning Commission might be. But that's the conversation I wanted to tee up. Allison.
Thank you for raising this and putting this together. Appreciate it. I want to make 2 comments. First of all, Patricia Seeger, who's my appointment, was retired before I appointed her, and as my understanding, is not in that category of concern for that. And then the other thing that I wanted to mention is I understand that we have new council members who want to reappoint folks, but the terms do not end until the end of June. And so I think it's a question of the new council members, if they want to appoint new people before then. Those are the ones that we have to deal with in the short run, as opposed to all of the 6 or however many we want to deal with. We all have to reappoint by June 30th because they're 2-year terms, and then there are I think it's 2 at-large appointments if we move from the prior system of the mayor making the nomination that we have to address. But that end of February, I'm just not sure where that, when we do need to address this, but the terms don't end until June. And obviously if somebody wants to, who is just reelected, change something out, we now have the ability to remove planning commissioners. But I just want to point that out.
We don't have to act because the people who are on there would continue to serve till June, but we could certainly act anytime before then to constitute the board.
Except that they would still, their term would still end at June and then be have to reconstitute them again in July, for July, as I understand it. So that even the new council members will be appointing them through believe they are appointing them through June, was what I believe I saw somewhere, and then they have to be reappointed.
Mayor, so one of the things that you all could do is by ordinance change the terms, and we talked about that so they could match the other boards and commission members. Happy to help you work with an ordinance to get that accomplished if that's council's will.
Yes.
In other words, we could do whatever we want to do. We could appoint all new people in February. We could wait till June to do it. Any scenario we want, we have the ability to be able to affect. Leslie.
I just wanted to thank our city attorney for raising the potential of an ordinance change. That's something that my office and I have been looking at and thinking about. So we might bring that forward in order to clarify that the terms would begin and end to begin on a date and end 2 years after the appointment date, rather than the June piece. There's one of the flashpoints of that controversy was the professions that more than a third of the planning commissioners were engaged in, and that took up a lot of our time and our discussion content last year. One of the categories that isn't on this very nice spreadsheet is who qualifies under what category. And I think at this point, because I don't want to revisit the same sort of situation where we had more than the charter required 1/3 of these folks be in a land use or development profession, we need to know what they do for a living. I know 2 of these folks work for the same engineering firm and do similar development engineering work. And I just mention that as an aside because I'm not sure if it's really in the best interest of the city to have 2 planning commissioners that work at the same firm, for example. I just mention that as an aside. That's not really the main point of my comment. The main point of my comment is we don't know who's an architect, who is a real estate agent, retired or not. And if they are retired, then that profession shouldn't show next to their name. So could we get another iteration of this sheet that shows
Okay, so I think
what
they
business?
do have resumes for 2 or 3 of the folks that were appointed, but not for the others. Would it be possible for you to reach out to those planning commissioners other than the ones that you have the resume for, as well as reaching out to the council member that appointed that person, and see if we can get that the same form completed by even the sitting people?
Well, I believe, don't they actually claim what they are? They list it on their application.
Jeanette Goodall, City Clerk. So we can compare their current application to see if they provided any information on there,
okay,
and then update that. But we can also reach out to all of them that haven't completed the additional questionnaire. I think we only have 2, maybe 3 that have been appointed since we implemented the questionnaire. But we can have everybody fill out the questionnaire and send that information out to mayor and council before you actually have the discussion in February.
Okay. I think that'd be good, just because the questionnaire that we all developed had a little bit more requests for information than were on the original application. Ann?
Just a question. So if our intention is to, my planning commissioner was just appointed in the fall, and so it's my intention at whatever's the right time to reappoint that person. So I didn't understand what you were saying earlier. Do we need to state that on the message board, or can I just state it now?
You can state it now,
Okay.
and we'll still try to get the resume completed.
Well, my commissioner is one of the few that already completed that.
So there's both an individual determination and a collective determination. So we'll recognize that it's your intent to reappoint the same person.
Well, and the person that I appointed is not in the category of any concern because he doesn't work in any of those fields. Right. So I would expect us as a group to, to allow council members to appoint who they want, and that the only issue is going to be if we have an issue related to that legal issue that was raised.
Okay. So noted. You can get that out, so you just get that information. My hope is that to bring this back up to the council at our last meeting in February, which is the 21st, which means we'll have a work session on the 19th to bring it back up for us to discuss on the 19th. If people could post their person or persons, You don't have to limit it to one if you don't want to. Person or persons that you would anticipate wanting to serve on this, either continuing in service or a new person. If we could do that maybe a week before that so that people have a chance to see it, that would be great. That would mean then to do that by the 12th, whenever that is, February 12th. Okay? All right, I think that gets us through all of those things. That gets us now to pulled items. Let's hit the pulled items that we have.